Welcome to Debating Dating, a podcast with me, Rachel Graham.
And me, Mark Jennings.
We're two friends, and every episode we'll be discussing our differing perspectives on an aspect of modern dating.
We'll be sharing our honest insights and experiences as platonic pals who are not afraid to give each other the unvarnished truth.
Or laugh at each other's bullshit.
So, this week we are discussing meet cutes, which is, I would say, my least favourite phrase in the entire vernacular of dating lingo. But before we get to that, we do have a bit of news to break, a bit of personal news to sort of use the parlance of the sort of cliched social media post when someone has something happening in their life. Rachel, would you like to reveal to the listeners what it is?
Yes. I have a boyfriend now. And it's funny because in the past few podcasts I've been very aware of seeing him and then being like, I need to just wait until it's definitely confirmed. I don't want to say anything on the podcast and then be like, oh, that's in the past. But yeah, I have a boyfriend now. And yeah, I just thought I would tell everyone.
Yeah, so I mean, I think you owe it to the listeners to let them know that you have abandoned them on the ship of singledom and jumped ship right at the first chance to... We have joked in the past that this podcast was really just to, for you to get a relationship, and it looks like you've achieved it. So any applications for a new co-host, I am very much looking for. The inbox is open now if anyone wants to step up to the plate. Now Rachel is sadly retiring.
Do you know what's so funny though is honestly anytime that anyone is single and chats about it, and then when they get in a relationship, I do kind of go, oh, I kind of hate them now, or they've abandoned me. So now I am that arsehole.
Absolutely. Well, you've just given everybody who is feeling that towards you legitimacy to feel that way and to not feel bad for it, because if Rachel was in your shoes, listener, she would feel the same about you, okay? So she's just letting you know that it's okay to hate her now, if you didn't already, of course. So, I mean, as I say, we're talking about meet cutes this, but I'm sure that everybody will be curious to hear. So how did this come about then? How did you meet your new man? Okay,
so basically, it all came about because of the podcast, which,
What a shock.
Yeah. Well, I suppose it worked out pretty well. So basically, I had seen him on Twitter and I thought he was handsome. So then I thought, and he followed me and I thought, oh, well, I'm not used to that. So I was like, oh, because I've never used it. And then, so I followed him back, and then a few months passed and he messaged me on Instagram saying, hey, really like the podcast. This is me. I'm caught up. I think it's great. So because I feel like normally whenever anyone sends anything on Instagram, I'm like, oh, they fancy me. The only reason why they're sending this little slide into the DM is that they fancy me.
Insight into the narcissism of Rachel right now.
It's more just that's such an easy way to start a kind of flirtation. But his message was so professional that I thought, nah, I don't think so. Maybe he just likes the podcast.
What he's done is he's pretended to like the podcast to basically get in there with you. And I, as someone who is concerned about our lack of male listeners, is very upset about that too.
I know, because actually recently I was like, I think maybe you should stop listening to it. So I've made us lose a listener. I'm sorry.
My God.
I know, I'm not doing good for the marketing. But yeah, so he'd messaged me on that, and then I kind of thought, oh, whatever, maybe I didn't see it in the slide into the DMs because it's so profesh. And then he did a submission for when I was looking for submissions for the being single episodes, he sent one in.
Sent one in going, can I please stop being single and go out with you?
No, I think I would have picked up on that. I would have got that wasn't... that was
very subtle hint now.
Yeah, so then I was like, oh great, he wants to do a submission. So I was like, hey, here's my number. Can you send over a voice note? Which I would say I do with everyone. It wasn't just a good excuse to be like, here's my number. I actually do that with people.
Although it was a good excuse to do that.
I know, right? And then he like sent it over, and that was that. And then like no more chat. And I was thinking, okay, good, submission. And then the following week we didn't use it, Mark. In fact, you didn't use it, and I remember thinking, oh, well, like it's a shame because he's quite hot, and I would want him
to be fair, it was very misogynistic, I would
No,
say.
it wasn't.
I don't really remember what it was.
It wasn't at all. It was just about going to weddings and being single. But yeah, so then the following week he texted me saying like, oh, was I not like used, did I get bumped from the podcast? But then I was saying to my flatmate, I was like, oh shit, like I genuinely was like, oh no, he's like annoyed that he didn't get in thingy, and I was thinking, oh, I feel really bad when we don't use everyone's submissions, and don't want any like listeners to think that we've like not been good to them or whatever. So so I genuinely was like, oh no, I wish he hadn't texted me this. Like I was getting really like anxious about it, and then my flatmate was like, I think potentially he could be like wanting to chat to you, and I was like, oh, like I don't know, I'm not sure, maybe this is networky, like blah blah blah. Anyway, it turns out that he was like, oh, it was just a nice excuse to say hi, and then we just started chatting, and then he said that he fancied me and asked me on a date, and then we went on a date.
Okay, so you've given basically the prelude of it, but you now are in a relationship, so the date must have went well.
It did go very well. Yep. He's very beautiful and nice. So it's nice, and yeah, I'm really happy.
There you go. And you even done the very cringeworthy thing, the boomer-esque move of going Facebook official.
Yeah, do you know what though? I've been single so long, and I just think I deserve it. I deserve the attention.
Did you make him your other half on Bebo as well?
If I had a Bebo, I'd be like, give me all the love. I want to be other half.
All these like antiquated fucking ways of like announcing that you're in a relationship.
Do you know what it was though? Was like,
I'd like to cancel my Lonely Hearts submission.
But genuinely, I just feel like the reason we started doing this podcast was because we had so many mad stories of like weird dates and all this kind of stuff, and I just thought, I deserve to be able to do a little Facebook, what's it called? Facebook official post. And I really enjoyed, see that sweet, sweet attention. I loved it.
Wouldn't he grudge you? Wouldn't he grudge you?
I know, I really feel like I've done my time. I feel like I've had like, I've done my prison
Well, if that's how you look at this podcast series, Rachel, then fair enough. But no, I'd like to think that we've had some laughs over the last couple of weeks,
No, I love the podcast, and obviously we'll keep doing the podcast. I did refer to him the other day as Yoko, because obviously he's come in and
does that mean that I'm John? No, you're John Lennon. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it does. I knew you'd think you were John Lennon. I'm John Lennon. Just because you need
fucking shot.
Whoa! You should just be happy for me, Mark.
I guess. No, listen, I'm very happy for you. I think this is probably an opportune moment as well to say that while we are going to continue with the podcast, it will be with a new host. No, I cannot want to be. But we will be taking a break as of episode 20. So this is the penultimate episode in this series, which is just series 1, and we'd always planned that. If you look at the listing, it is down as series 1 and stuff like that. So we will be taking a break, which is just very coincidentally for Rachel coincided with our newfound relationship. So basically we'll let it run its course over the summer, listeners, and then we'll be back in the autumn when she's got a story of heartbreak. No.
I really want to make it clear. I have had quite a few people message me being like, I'm so happy for you. He's so handsome. I'm so pleased for you. But what does this mean for the podcast? Or being like, honestly, when I saw that, I thought, oh shit, is this the end for the podcast? So I don't want to get any online hate. It's not my fault that we're taking a little break. We were doing that anyway, weren't we?
We were going to do that anyway. And I can just reassure listeners that it is not the end for the podcast. It's the end for Rachel on the podcast. But I will be coming back in the fall with a brand new single co-host.
I'll start a petition.
We will not abandon you.
Keep Rachel on it. But yeah, it was really the elephant in the room, wasn't it? Like, I feel like in the last couple of weeks, I've been so on edge. I've been like really trying not to say anything to like jinx it. But I kind of feel like, I mean, it's maybe a bit it's maybe a bit sad that I was like, oh, let's do a little reveal of my relationship. But it was more just that obviously when you're talking about dating and talking about all that kind of stuff, it feels weird to kind of not like chat about it, you know?
Absolutely. So, but really, I mean, this is just an extension of your Facebook official post. You just want a lot of the listeners now to get in touch and go, congratulations, Rachel. And by the way, feel free to do that. Also, feel free to send me any names that you think would be a good co-host for the next series. And
no,
don't worry. I will never abandon you. I will never succumb to a relationship. So don't worry.
Yeah, just keep it going for the listeners. Yeah, but also like, we can continue. It doesn't change anything except that I'm just very happy right now. So that's good.
Excellent. And let's have a wee chat then about so the first date. Where did you go on the first date?
So we went. It was very sunny, and he lives in Edinburgh, so he got the train over.
Long distance relationship there.
But is it a long distance relationship?
That's a good question.
I don't think, if it's 40 minutes on the train, I don't think it's a long distance relationship.
Fair enough.
So he came through and I took him to Kelvin Grove. But see, every time I take him anywhere in Glasgow, it's really, I really want it to be like nice and for him to see all the lovely bits, because obviously I pure love Glasgow. So I took him to Kelvin Grove, but it was one of those really sunny days that there was like police at the gates, and when you went in, they were like, it was almost like bouncers. They were like, right lads, how are you? Like to see if you were going to be trouble.
You're like, oh God, this is confirming every negative stereotype of Glasgow for an Edinburgh person.
Honestly, it was like, all right lads, no trainers and all that. And I was like, haha.
Where have you been before this?
Yeah, exactly. A friend's house.
Just Victoria Park, mate. Honestly, we
did go there. It was funny though, because so I took him to Kelvin Grove and they was really busy, and then we went to Victoria Park and like the sun was setting. We were having like we had some drinks, and I was thinking, oh, this is so romantic and beautiful and nice. And then a man just went and started pissing in the pond in front of us, and I was just like, oh my God, why? And then it was funny because I took him to this like little like nice spot because I thought it'd be really romantic, and then we bumped into my flatmate, and my flatmate was like, oh, did you take him to that? Did you go to that bit? And it sounded like that was like my move, that I was like, hey, come to the Fossil Grove, like this is,
which is 100% your move by the sounds of it, because you said you did that before.
I have been there once before.
Oh, did she get you with the old going to the fucking rocks bit at Victoria Park?
It's just really pretty. It looks like the end of Milan. I just like it. But yeah, it was very romantic. And and then the next time I went through to Edinburgh and we got really drunk and it was nice. I made lots of friends with people at a different table outside, and and we've just kind of been going like back and forth, but it has been nice because honestly, every time I take him to Glasgow, I mean, another time we went for pizza and we were like sitting on this bench, and then we turned around, there was like this big rat, and I was just like, why is Glasgow cock blocking me so much? I'm trying to create all these beautiful memories and it's just absolutely fucking it up. But yeah, so we've been on lots of dates and it's been really nice. It's
funny that you have that interpretation, because actually a guy would not give a fuck about any of that, really. Like, it's not as if I would not see a rat in a different city and be like, well, I'm not going to shag her now.
It's not about shagging, it's about creating the beautiful moments.
Sure.
And I kind of had a feeling, like, I'm not being funny, but like, I was saying this to my friend today and she was like, Rachel, stop lying to yourself. But I was saying to her, I feel like I'm good at knowing when things are going to turn into a thing. And I felt like from the first date, what was I like to you? Like, honestly, I have been saying since the beginning. Sure. I was like, you
say that about every single guy, but...
Well, that's what my friend said, but that's
not true. A broken
not
clock is right twice a day.
Shut the fuck up. That is what my friend said. She was like, Rachel, please stop. And I was like, no, but honestly, like, I kind of knew, I had a feeling.
It seems like a very nice fit. I don't know the guy, but he seems like a very nice boy, and you seem like a very nice fit, and you seem very happy. So yeah, I'm very happy for you, and I'm sure our listeners will be as well. Although, as I say, they will be sad that you are abandoning them.
Well, I'm not abandoning them. I'm just doing a different thing. But I'm sure we have listeners who are in relationships too. Right? Right, guys?
No. So, despite every fibre of Rachel's being wanting to talk about being in a new relationship and only being in a new relationship, we will carry on with the episode as planned. And we do have some submissions on this week's topic, which, as we mentioned, is meet cutes. As I say, I'm not a big fan of that phrase, but would you like to describe, Rachel, what a meet cute is?
Okay, so basically a meet cute is like, it kind of comes from like film and TV, rom-coms, and it's basically like the scene where two people who are like gonna end up together, how they initially meet. And it's like, sometimes it would be something that's maybe a bit like unusual or funny or like cute, to like go with the term of like how they met.
So if you're still struggling with this concept at home, the concept of meet cute is when some people meet each other and it's cute. That's the fucking thing. And they've turned it into I would say boke-inducing phrase.
It is a bit cringe, isn't it?
Yeah. This whole episode is here to make you boke. Rachel getting in a relationship. The phrase meet cute. That's basically it. But
we'll have fun. We'll always focus on the negative and debating dating. We're not going to be like, we're not going to be sickly sweet, don't worry.
I will be that rat that is there to ruin the romantic moment at every turn, bringing you crashing back down to earth. Aye, so I mean, basically, we've just kind of asked you, the listener, for some stories about how you met and things like that, and we've got ones about how people's parents met and all that. I actually thought people might be interested in knowing how we met, Rachel.
Oh yeah.
Aye.
How did we meet?
I don't know.
So we met.
Do you want me to tell my side of it?
Yeah, well, that's what I was asking because I
remember.
Okay, yeah. Oh God, I'm a bit nervous now.
Basically, what I remember, right?
Oh no.
Is I remembered, like, I knew that you worked at the Stand, and you'd obviously worked there at some point in the Stand in Glasgow when I'd been on.
Yeah.
And then we were both at the Fringe. I think it was my first year doing the Fringe. You were doing some play that was on in like the morning or something like that.
Uh-huh.
And I remember I kept bumping into you. And like you were always dead chatty and all that. And I was always like, oh fuck, this lassie works at the Stand where I'm trying to get in like today gigs and that, so I better be nice to her. And then you gave me your number at one point because you kept trying to like get me to go to your play, and it was only like fucking, what time was it on? Like 9 in the morning or something?
I can't remember what play it was.
Urine Town, it was that one.
Yeah, can I just say it was on at 11:45 a.m.
That's basically 9 in the morning.
It's nearly noon, Mark. Also, can I just say that Urine Town was such a good musical. I wish you'd come to see it because honestly, it was very good. Well, and I've made you go to really bad things that I've been in, so it would have been good if you'd actually seen the good thing.
I've never been able to get them out of my psyche. But I remember, I didn't have your number saved, and then occasionally I would get it, and I'd be like, who is this again? And it was you.
How fucking dare you?
But you were always very nice and friendly, and then I guess after that's what I remembered for that Fringe, and then I guess we just knew each other through that, and then obviously like I guess I was doing the Stand one, and we ended up doing the sketch show and all that together. Yeah. But I'd remembered I could remember a time when you were that lassie that worked at the Stand that I would always bump into at the Fringe. And
you'd be like, oh God, best behaviour.
I was like, I better be nice to her.
I know, well...
Maybe she can help me get in, and turns out you had no say in that whatsoever, so it was all a waste of time, basically.
I don't even remember that at all.
No.
But I think it's because I remember seeing you gigging at the Stand probably before that. So that's how I would have known to say hi to you. Yes, and also that's the thing, because it was like, I would see you on stage, and I think when you see someone on stage, it's like, I've had it happen to me where people come up to me and they're like, oh yeah, blah, blah, blah. But they've seen me on stage, but I've never met them before. But I think when you sit and you see that, so I think that'll have been what's happened, is I'll have seen you, known who you were. Because see at the Fringe, did I be like, hey, and you're like, who is this? Or did you know?
I think I might have had to like try and
place me.
I probably never knew your name, But
Terrible.
I did know that you worked at this, or either you must have told me that, or I remembered you when I'd been in or something. I would have known your face.
I probably
but,
would have said who I was as well, because there was a lot of comedians who I would know that they wouldn't, like, you're used to seeing someone in a certain environment, like behind a bar, but I would imagine I wouldn't be like, oh, he'll know who I am.
I know, and I feel like you really did. You've managed to basically claw your way into my life through that. And I never quite went to see you around town, but I was dragged to enough things after it, and all the rest of it, and then we ended up being colleagues.
That's
colleagues and friends.
That's my what's that called? Your modus operandi.
What to just?
Well, like that's the way I get into people's lives. I just claw my way in and just proper cling on. But then you get really good friendships. Necessary. Yeah, like honestly. That's
true. Yeah, no, that's. I mean, hey, listen,
we've done well.
We've come a long way, and it will be sad. It will be sad to see things end this way.
It'll be sad to never speak to you again after next week. Yeah,
that's what happens. That's what happens. When your single pals get in relationships and then you never hear from them again. And listen, hey, we'll always be able to listen back to the podcast, and we can just pretend like it's the conversation on the news. So we'll have the recordings of when we talked at least, which will be nice.
I wish you all the best in your future, Mark. Honestly, it's been a real pleasure.
Don't you worry about me, I'll be fine.
I remember seeing you on stage. I remember seeing like you and then all the boys in the sketch group that we then like started doing together. Like I remember kind of being aware of you, but I think that was because when I worked behind the bar, there was so many like middle-aged men who were on the bill a lot. So I just kind of took note of the young guys that maybe I could be more pally with and be friends with. So I think that's my kind of memory. But I don't remember. I don't remember. But I mean, I have a terrible memory, so that's what I remember.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So that was how we met. So we'll start having a wee listen to this week's submissions then. So the first one actually comes from where we were just discussing, Rachel. This first one comes from the Edinburgh Festival, and is a time where a person was chatted up by someone in a bar.
So I was at the Fringe Fest a few years ago and was out at one of the many pubs. We went up to the bar. We were all dancing on the dance floor, and I had left my friends who were on the dance floor and went up to the bar to grab another drink. And I was just sitting there waiting for my drink, and some guy standing next to me looks over and says, "Why is no one chatting you up right now?" Which, looking back on it, I should have just run at that line, but I didn't. And I was like, well, I guess you are. And that started a 6-month fling of back and forth long distance texting, and was just an absolute waste of my time. Not cute.
So a meet not cute there to kick us off.
I think pickup lines are really, like, I think people think that people want them, and I don't think anyone wants them really. You want an excuse to start to chat to someone, but see, as soon as it sounds like a line, I don't think people ever want that.
Chat-up lines are like one of the biggest myths ever. Yeah. Because it's like, it's not how things really work, because it's never about what you say, it's about how you're saying it, basically. So it's like, it's really just about going up and just, because nobody knows how to start a conversation with a stranger. There's no real way to do it. So I think it's so much about just the vibe you're thinging off, your confidence, just being like kind of friendly and chatty, which is a difficult thing to do, because you're kind of like, especially if you're going to chat somebody up in a bar, you're trying to pick your time, if they're in the middle of a conversation, or, the amount of times, like, I had been out in like a bar or something, like chatting up some lassie, and then it's like, their mate comes back with a round of drinks now, something that gets their attention more, and then you're out of the picture straight away, do you know what I mean? So, like, there's all those kind of external factors that, like, that you need to traverse when you're chatting somebody up, and no like sort of magical words are going to like fix that. Do you know what I mean? Saying that, I do, like, one of my mates did end up getting a girlfriend once, like, years ago, because he went up to her and he said, how much does a polar bear weigh? Enough to break the ice. Hi, I'm me. And like, that is those ones are like the pure cheesiest ones on the planet. Did it hurt when you fell from heaven and all this shit? Like, Which, I mean, like those ones, I suppose, if anyone says them now, like they're doing them ironically, is a way. And that's actually kind of what that guy was doing in the submission one. He's going, oh, how come no one's chatting you up yet? That's like so pure. I'm doing this in quotation marks.
Yeah.
Because he's actually still trying to chat it up, but he's doing it by like calling attention to the vibe.
He's not putting himself out there. That's the thing.
Why is there none of these creepy guys around here trying to chat you up, eh? I hate it when that happens. Bullshit.
Yeah, and I feel like I think of all the chat lines, I actually think the polar bear one is probably the best in that it's like the problem with chat lines, I think, is that it doesn't make you feel special because it sounds like it's a blanket statement. It's like a copy and paste type job.
It's like when people do like best man speeches and they just get all the jokes off the internet.
They've got like all the props and all that, and you're like, yeah, no, honestly, and I think as well, the thing that I don't like about it is like, if you get approached in a pub or something, that it's that you want to feel like they've come over for you of how you look, or if they've overheard you, or like whatever, you want to feel special. And I think a chat up line or a pick up line, it's that kind of thing of being like, oh, they're just trying to get with anyone, and that they probably do it often. And I actually think it's really counterintuitive or whatever. It really doesn't work out well for them.
It's about just trying to go up and trying to date in a way that doesn't seem awkward, although it's like basically if you're going up to somebody and you're trying to chat them up, you're putting your neck on the line where you can come across like that, because you know that way, like guys, one of the worst feelings probably is to be like, you know, when you hear women talking about, oh, this creepy guy came up to me or whatever, that's the thing you pure don't want to be. But see, the thing is, like, if you want to put yourself out there and you want to meet new people, you've got to put your neck in the line to do that, because you know, otherwise you're just going to be standing in the fucking corner all night like the wee guys at the school disco or something. So you've got to put yourself out there. And honestly, I do think that there's a lot to be said for the bravery that it takes and the courage that it takes, and the thing you need to overcome, that social anxiety you need to overcome to make that move to go up and chat people up, right? And now, of course, you know, it's done badly in a lot of times and all the rest of it, but honestly, it's, you know, I think it's something that I don't think it gets talked about enough, that actually it takes a lot of courage to go up and try and start a conversation with somebody, particularly for a guy doing it to a woman these days. And like, I think like you know, it's much maligned, and guys have quite rightly, I would say, like sort of, you know, people have gone too far and do it in inappropriate ways, and you know, they've
learned to be cautious, which is good.
Well, I don't know about that, but I'm saying I think like this, you know, because you hear it, you know, people going up and slapping arses and doing all these inappropriate things or just saying something horrible or whatever. But I think when you hear that, it's like, you know, some guys, just because you don't want to be that, you just go in your shell and go, like, fuck, right, I'm never fucking chatting him deal again, right? But actually, like, there's a difference between that and just trying to go up and somebody start a conversation, you know, in a fucking bar or a nightclub or whatever if you're single, and there's nothing wrong with that. And actually, I think it's to be commended if you can be brave enough to go and do that, because listen, it takes courage. It's not an easy thing to go at. They could just tell me to fuck off because I'm some random, but I'm going to take the risk because maybe this could be, you know, the next fucking love of my life or whatever.
Exactly. And I think actually, you know, we've kind of spoken with the shooting your shot episode. We've been talking about how like it's the right thing to do. Like there's no point in your living your life and not going for things or whatever. Yeah. I think the best way to like shoot your shot, especially if you want to approach someone like in a bar or whatever, I think it's just to like, if you're near someone, to kind of like join in a wee bit on something, like have a little say something happens, like say someone like, I don't know, smashes a glass or someone comes over and does something, then you can be like, oh, haha, like this little comment, and then that means it opens up the door for you to kind of have a chat, and then they can kind of show whether or not they're interested in that way, because some people are like, haha, yes, goodbye. Yeah. I'm like chatting to my friend, and I think you think, okay, well, I'll just leave it there. Whereas if someone is kind of like, oh yeah, and this, then you're like, okay, well, they're interested. And then I think that kind of just is the best way to kind of approach it, of being like, oh, now we're in a conversation.
Aye, that is quite a smart way to do it, because if you can make it feel like, especially, let's say you were in a group, right, and some guy comes up to you and he's like talking to the whole group, and then it's like, oh, like, and then it turns out you just get chatting or whatever, and it's like, I talking about, oh, did you see what happened over there or whatever? Like, it's just, it's like, it seems like it's a more sociable, and it doesn't seem like such a pure, outright, like, pure chat up.
I had a really interesting thing happen literally last week, where I was sitting in a pub. I was sitting in the pub that I work in, and I was sitting just like by myself. I think I was like there for like an hour between like meeting people. And there was a table of like 3 guys beside me, and Mark, they were talking about dating, and they were like discussing whether or not you should approach someone. And there was an Italian guy, and I feel like Italian guys come up so much in our podcast. I don't know why.
We have spoken about Italian guys. He kind of confirmed the stereotype we've said of Italian guys, where they will all, like, they're more open and
open and passionate. So basically, what he was saying was, I would love, he was like, I'm very passionate. Like, if I see a beautiful woman, I want to go up and say, oh my God, you're so beautiful. And,
Mamma mia.
Oh my God.
You're the most beautiful girl I have ever seen in my life.
You're going to get us cancelled, Mark. Good thing we're taking our little break.
Who's going to fucking cancel us?
Mamma mia.
Aye. What, the fucking Italians going to come after us?
Although I did say something about a Dol Mio advert, so I'm not.
I know.
But he was kind of saying, he was like, I'm a passionate person. And then the 2 other guys were saying, yeah, but you need to like be aware that, that might make them feel uncomfortable. And it was so funny because I was sitting with my laptop. I was actually going to edit the podcast. And I was sitting and I was thinking, don't say anything, because I'm so naturally like, I love to join, I like to make friends, I love to like chat. And I was thinking, don't get involved. You have to edit the podcast. Mark will want you to get the work done, want you to like keep focused, because I'm a bit of a procrastinator.
Yeah, I wanted you to go to a pub to do the fucking work, guy. Exactly.
It was really sunny, but yeah, and then literally one of them just like, I like opened up the laptop to do the work, and then one of them leant over and was like, hey, can you settle this debate? And I was like, oh my God, my time has come, my time to shine. And then I chatted to them about like whether or not you should like approach anyone and like how to approach them. And I suppose that's the kind of like meet cute thing. But I just honestly,
so
I was
it's
so
law you just get in a relationship, or you the fucking.
Well, it was very funny because I was chatting and I'd been in a relationship for literally one day, and I was like chatting to them about like dating and the podcast and all this kind of stuff, and then I was like,
as an expert, as someone in a relationship, the long-term relationship, 24 hours now it's been, and
that was exactly what I was like. I was like, well, my boyfriend.
I remember back when I was single.
Pretty much.
I used to worry about all these things as well, guys. But when the right person comes along, you just know.
You just know. It's just it's a spark. It's a connection. Yeah, but I just thought it was really interesting that they were like, guys our age of like discussing whether or not to approach anyone.
That's it. Women think that guys don't talk about that shit, but we do. We just don't talk about it in front of you. I remember one time in particular, right, it was in this nightclub, and I used to go there a lot when I was younger, right, and I seen this girl walk past, and she was like pure, like gorgeous girl, right, so a girl I would sort of see as out of my league. But I thought she was somebody else that I had spoken to like earlier in the night, right? Mm-hmm. So I kind of like just kind of shouted like, "Hey!" Like kind of like quite confidently, kind of like, "Hey!" Like say, I can't remember what I said to her, but I said something, and I would say even a tonality that was so much more confident and assured than I would have ever. I'd have been too worried that somebody would punch me in the face if I'd have spoke to her like that, if I just thought she was a stranger, because I thought I knew her turned, and I remember she turned around and like was proper. Like, it worked on her, do you know what I mean? Because of just the level of confidence that was in my fucking voice. That's the sort of shit, you can't really fake that. It's really hard to fake that level of confidence that it would take to just go up to somebody who is quite intimidating and just be like totally pure, totally grounded and assured of yourself.
It's like you'd taken like a placebo pill, because like
you
know.
That's exactly what it's like.
You were like, oh God, we know each other. It's like, nope, no you don't.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there was this one time, I think, honestly, this was years ago. I think I was like 19 or something, and I was in ABC. And I think it was...
Great nightclub, by the way. Unfortunately.
R.I.P.
Died in a fire. Yeah,
I know.
art school, but that was a belter of a place.
Yeah, it had like it was like propaganda. Was it propaganda or like Jelly Baby? Was that what it's called?
Both of those,
So it was either Jelly Baby or a propaganda night. And this guy came up to me and he was really confident because he had like a CV. And basically,
what? What do you mean?
Right, so let me tell you. So this guy came up to me and he was like, he had like a piece of paper and it was like he'd made a CV for his friend to try and get his friend to pull. So it was like, hashtag.
I think it was like a dating CV.
Yeah, yeah.
Actually, just his job and
no. So it was like a CV with like it had like a picture of this guy and it said like hashtag date Andy 2012 or something.
Yeah.
And I remember, but it was funny because it was a guy handing it to me for his friend, but I was really attracted to the guy who handed it to me because he was so confident because it was him with this like prop, I suppose, of being like, here you go, like haha, and also it was a bit kooky and a bit weird, which I like.
Yeah.
And also, but it literally made me go, oh, this guy's just approached me, and it was actually better for the guy who handed me the CV.
Oh yeah, well that's actually that's good if you're the guy again, you've got that kind of excuse. I'm not really doing this. I'm doing this for somebody else, and then you get in like that. It's actually that's interesting that thing because I think as a novelty, right? Like, see if they were doing that, they'd made the CV and it was like, say it was whatever reason they were doing it, the guy's birthday or something like that. Yeah. If they'd done that as a one-off, like that would actually probably work because it's like a genuine, authentic, like spontaneous thing. Oh, this will be a laugh. We'll do this tonight.
Yeah,
if they'd done that like. If they'd done that every weekend, it wouldn't work because it just would obviously be obvious, like kind of fucking shtick or whatever.
But it's easier to pull. Don't you think? If you're on like a hen do or a stag do, or if you're on like a holiday to one of those things, because it's all
you're having more fun anyway. Having more fun anyway. So I definitely think a lot is just the kind of your frame of mind or like just the kind of like the level of enjoyment you're having at the night, and that kind of that shines through. And if you're just having a pure good time with your mates, then you're giving off good vibes anyway, and people can sort of pick up on that. It's funny though, like talking about that thing, because as I say, like that would be like a terrible if somebody was like, oh, this is what you should do to like pull somebody, like make a fucking CV. It'd be the most try hard weird shit ever. But is a one-off, and it is that way sometimes. If something's genuinely spontaneous, it will work. But it's like there's a Zen phrase that's like, you can't walk through the same river twice. And I always think about that because I remember there was this girl that I was texting once, and like I sort of was feeling like I wasn't really sure if she was into me or no or whatever, but we were getting on quite well on it, and I just sort of I was like, we'll just be pals. Do you know what I mean? Like, but as a kind of way to be like, we'll see how she reacts to that. And then she's like, oh really? Like, because I was kind of interested, blah, blah. And then it ended up working, right, whatever. And we hooked up and stuff. But then I was texting this last, and I thought, well, I'll try that again because it worked the last time, and it just never worked. It was just so it's so like you've got to kind of.
There's no point. That's because that was a choice to be a game. Do you know what I mean? Not a game, but like you were like, as soon as it turns into a kind of like strategy, I think people can pick up on that kind of.
That's what you're saying, like the kind of game playing thing, and it's like it's like it's what you've said before about like the whole thing about like waiting a certain amount of time to text somebody back or whatever. Because I think if you get the feeling somebody's doing that, like I will, well, it took them 2 hours, so I'm going to make 3 hours and all this shit.
Yeah. If
that's the way, then it's a lot of shit. But if someone's just genuinely busy or whatever, it's fine. Do you know what I mean? But like, you don't want to get into that game playing shit. But it's funny. I think more for that though. For me, like the thing I took from it was like just people can always tell if you're not being genuine. Do you know what I mean?
I think people are very intuitive.
Sure.
And like I think like a lot of it, like you're saying, it's just like it's like the kind of vibe and the energy, and like it's not actually the words that you're saying, it's like how you're saying them. And I think we're all kind of I mean, I don't think that many people are that clueless. Like I think we all kind of know what's going on, and that's the thing, especially when you've been single for a long time. It's like you become quite quick to pick up on like what someone's actually saying by what they're not saying.
Absolutely. The self is always coming through, is what they say, and I think that's very true when it comes to that type of thing. So we'll move on to the next submission, which deals with another place that people can meet and have meet cutes, which is parties.
My partner and I met at a party at uni. Initially, she only came to the party because she was the upstairs neighbour of the host, and she came down to complain. So in order to satisfy her complaint, he invited her to the party. So I met her at this party, her and her partner at the time. And then we remained friends afterwards. And then about 6 months after her and her partner broke up, I made my move.
Yes.
Swooped in there.
I mean, I feel like that's it's very admirable to, like, you know, wait about until she was free. That's quite nice.
6 months. It's interesting though. Do you know what it must be weird, right, for that ex-boyfriend, right? If he ever like bumped into them together or seen that they were going out, and like, he'd be like, "Is that not that guy for that party that we were telling him to turn the noise down? How did that?" It's quite a random like way to, like, you know.
It's like your worst nightmare, isn't it? It's like being that. It's like, you know, when you're like with someone and then they've got like a friend and you're like, and then as soon as you break up and they get together and you're like, oh, I actually was right there.
And you must wonder how, like, what was going on before we broke up. Was there
overlap?
Yeah, all that kind of thing.
I know, but I suppose you can't live like that. Do you know what I mean?
No.
Like, and you don't want to live like that. And there's no, it's not healthy, and there's no point. It's better to just kind of go, do you know what? Like,
it is what it is. I know.
Yeah.
But that's an interesting one, because I think that's probably quite a common thing that does happen. That, like, you know, you'll like your ex's next partner, somebody that they knew and you knew at the time, kind of thing. It's interesting how that happens. Also, like, parties, obviously, then. So, like, parties, you know, quite a good place to meet people. It's sometimes hard to meet new people and all that kind of thing. And people's parties are good ways. You used to have a few house parties back in the day, Rachel.
I had great house parties, didn't I?
You did have good house parties, aye.
I think it was good. The thing that I find stressful with house parties is, like, whenever I had them, was I have, like, a lot of friends from a lot of different, like, aspects of my life and a lot of different varied circles. And sometimes that doesn't always gel. So I'd be having
worlds
like,
are colliding.
Yeah, and I'd have like New Year's parties, I'd have birthday parties. It was always my birthday parties that I'd have loads of people having full-on fights, and I would just be going around really steaming drunk, because lots of people would get me Prosecco, which I don't even like, but I'd honestly have so much Prosecco, so I'd just be sharing it around everyone because I wouldn't drink it myself. And I just remember the whole time, like, if everyone was coming up to me like, so-and-so said this to me, so-and-so said that to me, and I remember just being like, it's my birthday, please everyone be nice to each other.
Well, it's funny you bring up arguments, because I specifically recall one time I was at a party at your place, right? Now, I'm going to set the scene up for the listeners, because I think actually I was kind of put in an awkward position by you in this scenario.
Me?
Right? Yes. Now, so here's what I'll explain about this, right? Okay. So Rachel messaged me saying, oh, like, I've got this pal, what do you think of her? Would you be into her? And I, like, you know,
she's very pretty and lovely.
Pretty lassie and all that. I just was a bit like, not really my type, right? And then you were like, oh no, because you'd already fucking told her that you would say to me. So the fact that I was now not saying aye, there's no way that she wouldn't know that, because if you'd went to me without saying to her, you know, she wouldn't have known. But you done that, right? So that had happened, I think, a while before this party, right?
Yeah.
And then I'd matched with somebody on Tinder or something, one of the dating apps, that turned out to be your pal, another different girl. And this was like the week of your party, and we both realised we were going to the same party on that night.
Yeah.
So then, I'm at the party, both of those girls are at the party, I'm talking to the lasses that I've matched with and all that sort of stuff, but the girl that you'd sort of said that you would say to me that I didn't say that I was wanting to kind of pursue was there, and fucking pulled me up for basically swiping right on. You're like, you just want to be talking to her.
I didn't pull you up.
No, she pulled me up.
I know.
And she was like, oh, you just, you're talking to her now, you don't want to be with me now, that sort of stuff. And I'm like, what the fuck did I do in this scenario?
I know. I think there was a lot of alcohol involved in this scenario.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, do you know what? I put my hands up. I'm a shite wing woman. I'm shite at setting people up. I'm too ditzy for the admin.
Because you got too carried away. Because
the idea.
The only thing you done wrong was telling her that you would say to me before you said to me.
I know.
Because you never thought of the consequences of if I was like, I'm not really, like, I don't fancy them or whatever.
I know. Do you know what it is though? Like it was like, she is so great, and it's that thing of like, it's just like, I now know the type of girls that you usually pursue, and she's just like, she's got her own good stuff going on, but it's not what you normally.
I know, but all of a sudden I'm sitting there in this scenario and I'm getting pulled up for, like, because of that scenario, because she then knew that I was into this other lassie and I wasn't like wanting to like kind of. Try and fire into her, and it was, but she just like called it out, and everybody in the room was like, "What the fuck do we?" Nobody knew what to say, and it's such an awkward scenario because, like, and again, it goes back to this thing I'm always going on about, but it's like if somebody's not into you, like, fucking, like, if you pull them up on that, like, there's nothing they can do about it. Like, it's just. I think
it was tongue in, like, I think it was tongue in cheek.
It definitely was not tongue in cheek. It was.
No,
created a fucking awkward atmosphere.
Oh, do you know what? I was speaking to my friend today, Mark, and she was talking about listening to the podcast, and she went, "Yeah, I just listened to it, and I just think some of the things you say, Rachel, I just think you are a fanny." And I was thinking, all through you saying this, I was thinking, oh, I was a bit of a fanny in that scenario. Yeah. Honestly,
well, you really stuck me in it, but it was. I think it's kind of funny because it's just it's like a sitcom-esque scenario where I was stuck there and there was nothing I could say or do because it was like, she was right about everything she was saying, but I was just like, what do you want me to do about it? Like, what can I say? Like, so that was quite an interesting scenario.
And then you ended up seeing the other girl, so that was your meet cute.
It was, I suppose. Just match. Well, it was quite convenient that I matched with somebody
that you like then see
the week that we were going to the same party coincidentally, so that was quite good actually.
I know. Well, you're welcome. Parties. You're welcome for all the amazing
you
parties.
say you're welcome. You should be saying you're sorry and you're welcome in the same.
I'm sorry and you're welcome.
Thank you. Apology not accepted.
On the dating apps, and like I do think that they're good and there's no judgment of meeting anyone on them. Like, I met my ex-boyfriend on them. Like, I encourage people to go on them because I personally feel like I wasn't meeting at, like, in my work, self-employed, and then also whenever I'm in cast, I'm not meeting a lot of guys. Don't really want to go out with actors and comedians. So it was that kind of thing of being like, how do you meet people? And I think, to have this kind of meet cute thing, like, it happens so rarely.
I suppose people would say that it's not very meet cute to meet in a dating app. It's like, oh, what kind of stories I to tell the grandkids or whatever. But it's just the reality of the world we live in these days. Like, it's just another way to meet people, especially nowadays, like when even, out with the pandemic and all that, so many people are like working, from home, or even if you work in an office, you're kind of, everybody's isolated. Everybody's like isolated individuals in this kind of society now. So it is harder to meet people, and, having the apps on that is actually a great way to be able to do it. One of my mates has met his partner through a dating app. They've been together for years now, but I remember like another guy I knew was sort of saying, he's like, oh, you can't meet like your girlfriend on a dating app and all that. And I just thought like it was so ridiculous.
That's so stupid.
But people used to say that about, oh, you can't meet your girlfriend, your boyfriend in a nightclub either. And it's like, you can meet them anywhere. And it's like, just because people are so conditioned to just meeting people through effectively the thing we've talked about before, propinquity. Basically, whoever just by accident basically happens to be around you, somebody that you grew up in your neighbourhood, or you went to school with, or you worked with, or you went to uni with, or whatever it is, right? Yeah. And then you just bump into them at some random point, and by accident, that's how you end up in these relationships that last your entire life. When the reality is, that might not be the best person for you, and it's certainly not probably the best way to meet somebody, particularly if you're known environments where you're maybe meeting like-minded people, and so you end up getting in a relationship with somebody who you've probably not really got that much in common, but just because you worked next to them. And it's like, I think so many people, probably the majority of people, still do meet their partners through, again, like somebody that was, you know, they were going out with since high school or uni or college, or, you know, somebody in their kind of friends group. And it's like, you know, and then it's like, or making it as though it's weird to meet someone in an app or in a club or something like that. Yeah. You're like, no, like, it's like, just because you didn't fucking, you know, you're not going out with somebody who lived like, you know, a mile down the road from you and was like, you know, you met at your local nightclub or something, doesn't mean that it's any less legitimate. In fact, it's actually like, if I'd sort of just like settled down with somebody that just, you know, I knew in high school or that I worked with when I was 18 or something like that, I would have never have grown as a person. And I think part of like having to kind of be forced out your comfort zone to meet all these different people and go on dates through Tinder and chat people up in nightclubs and all these sort of things, it helps you grow as a person, because you bump up against people who are not just like you and you're not stuck in your wee kind of bubble.
Yeah, I totally agree. And like that's the whole point of your 20s, isn't it, as well, is of like growing and expanding your world and expanding your circle. And that's why, like, you know, the apps are good, because it is people that you aren't necessarily going to be that similar to, so you can kind of learn from them. But I think I found it really interesting, because I think, you know, I was on the apps for such a long time. I got so used to kind of like the way that they worked, you know, like speaking for a couple of weeks, going on a date, and you kind of get all the information you kind of need from like their bio. So it is a really good shorthand to like find out the basics. And I found that when I was like gonna go on the date with my boyfriend, now that sounds so weird, still not used to saying it, but I found it really weird because it was
my husband. Oh, that's the first time I've said it out loud.
Shut up. I just think I still find it weird to say.
You have my permission to audibly boke it at home, guys.
Oh, I thought it was just that I was allowed to talk about it. No, but what I found really. Please don't hate me. I found it really weird because I'm so used to, like, I only ever really met people on the apps in the last couple of years that before we met,
this is before you had a podcast, obviously.
I found that I was like, I don't know what age he is. I don't know what height he is. I don't know, you know, what he studied. And I suppose like that's the kind of nice thing of going kind of back to like.
Would you not know all of those things through somebody's profile?
No, but I'm saying with my boyfriend is because that wasn't on an app. I didn't know all these things, and it was really awkward because
you didn't know if he likes pineapple on pizza or not.
Does he like dogs? Is that his personality? You know.
You don't know what his love language is.
I know. Well, I made sure I did date 2.
Oh my God. There you go.
But yeah. So do you know what? Also, as well, Mark, is I looked up our star sign compatibility.
Oh, for fuck's sake!
Can guess what the percentage is? I'll give you one.
I don't
guess.
know. I honestly wouldn't know what's good or bad with a percentage about horoscopes.
So 100% is completely compatible.
Well, I get that, but I don't know like if 30 is good or not. Do you know what I mean? Like.
Our compatibility is 1%.
Is it?
Yeah.
So the worst possible?
Yeah.
Is this the first time you've ever had to admit that you think horoscopes are bullshit?
Honestly, I don't believe in them. Honestly. Get out of my life. We do have the same love language though. But anyway, so I didn't know any of these things about him. So it was awkward because then I had to be like, like, what age are you? And it's one of those things where like, that doesn't really matter, but I suppose it kind of does. Like, and I do think that it does give you that shorthand. Whereas like when I was meeting him, I was like, I don't really know what to expect because you've not presented yourself in this little format.
Yeah,
you know?
It's funny that, isn't it, that when you don't meet somebody like after having seen their fucking that, like, you know, the digital version of the CV that guy was handing out in the nightclub.
Yeah.
That is basically what profiles are. Like, that sounds weird when you said that story about the guy handing out his CV to people in the club, but that's what a fucking dating app is. Basically, that's what your profile is on a dating app.
Yeah, and I think it's good as well because I mean, like before Facebook or, you know, whatever, but mainly Facebook and Bebo and all that shit from like back in the day, like you didn't know if people were if people were single. So like if you fancied someone, you know, it's that bit in the social network where it's like, oh, do you know if that girl is single? Oh, I don't know how we'd find out.
The whole point of them setting up Facebook was to just
See if girls were single.
That is literally why they done it.
I know.
It's like to try and get a big
database of women.
of all the women. Aye, that's Zuckerberg. And listen, hey, look, turns out that's quite profitable. Who knew?
Dating is interesting.
There you go.
Yeah. So I think that I think absolutely no judgment on people, how people meet. My friend used to really despair when like guys would be like, well, I don't want, my fucking future wife to be, from Tinder. And it's like, who cares? Like, why are you being so snobby? You are also in Tinder. So like, that's what annoys me as well, as if like, and also I think the different apps, some people are like, oh, if we meet on Bumble, it's better, but if it's on Tinder, it's not. And I'm like, shut up, everyone's on everything.
All of that thing's bullshit, because like the different apps it's basically like the difference between different bars. It's like some might be a wee bit more, like considered a wee bit more classy than others, and they might have a slightly different layout and maybe even a slightly different clientele. But at the end of the day, just like in a bar, like everybody's there for the same fucking thing, basically. So it's like, it's all superficial nonsense, and there's no right or wrong way that you can meet your partner. Like, as I say, like, can happen a lot by, in any number of ways, and particularly more and more nowadays online, or whatever, but by going up to somebody in a bar or whatever is fine. But I think so many people meet kind of by accident, and it just happens to be somebody that they've worked with or they went to school with, whatever. The propinquity thing, as we've talked about before, that I think like it's so easy for somebody who've just kind of fallen into that to like judge. But actually, I think there's a lot to be said for being proactive and actually going out your way to try and meet people, whether it's speaking to them in person, and singles bars and that, or, meeting somebody online. There's nothing weird about that whatsoever. Yeah. And it's actually, I would say, probably a better way to meet, an easier way to try and meet somebody who's better for you or more right for you, because, what are the chances that the fucking lassie that was in your class in fucking high school, is going to be, by the time you get to adulthood, the exact right person for you? Or is it just are you just kind of sticking with it because that's all you've ever known?
What I used to always fantasize in school, even if I didn't even fancy anyone at the time in my year or anything, I used to always like think, oh, imagine I had like really heavy bags and then I spilt them all in the corridor, and then there was like an exchange student came up and like helped me with my bags.
Where did you go to school? Fucking Bayside? Waiting on fucking AC Slater to come and help you with fucking bags and books.
I'm too young for that reference, but I'd imagine it's some sort of Saved by the Bell?
Yes, correct.
Oh, okay. But yeah, no, I would really I like really wanted something like really romantic and cute like that, and it just doesn't happen in reality. It's so rare for that kind of thing to happen. And so that's why we need to kind of just, but I do think that a lot of people's like parents had that, but I think that's because they had to put themselves out there more than we did, because we can do things from behind a screen now.
Well, you mentioned parents.
Yes.
This next submission that we've got is actually a story that is about how their parents met. So we'll have a wee listen to this one now, and it takes place in fabulous Las Vegas.
My parents met at a $2 blackjack table in Vegas some 33 years ago. My mom had just been dumped, so like she basically just had this all fuck men mentality. They're all just assholes and pigs. And my dad, who is 6 years younger, was at the same trade show as her. My dad was this 26-year-old surfer dude. And so my mom had been playing blackjack with these two hockey players. And my dad basically stood kind of in the background for about 2 hours, just trying to get the balls up to go and talk to my mom. And finally he did. And he walks up and he just says, "Excuse me, miss, is this seat taken?" My mom looks at him, looks at the seat, takes a drink, looks at him again, and goes, "Does it look like it, asshole?"
I love this mum. I love a bit of sassy attitude. That's really nice story. I love stuff like this, where it's that kind of thing of like, it's like quite a lively.
I can't believe that you think it's a nice story that she says, "Does it look like an asshole?" Like, so
she's being sassy, right? I don't think she was being aggressive.
Would it be that sassy if fucking it was the guy saying that?
There's a different power dynamic.
Does it fucking look like it, you fucking cow?
Oh my god, I hate the word cow. Yeah, no, it's that. I think it's like she's being cool and funny, right?
It sounds like she's going for a hard time. Wow, I want to know what the fuck happened to the hockey players, man.
Little orgy.
It turns out, basically, sounds like they're probably like, right, fucking, she's into this, here we go, fucking, the hockey team rebound, and then fucking she's at that table for 2 hours, and they're like, fuck, there's no wasting our time, man, we'll find something else with her. So that guy just stuck in for those 2 hours, waited on the intimidating hockey players going away, and then, sweeps in there like the suave surfer dude that he was, and is like, is this seat taken?
Don't you think, like, being American, like, every story sounds a bit more... Like,
sounds like something in a film, like two hockey players and a surfer. It's like having a pure showdown in Vegas, like.
And I'm imagining the mum in like a floor length, like sparkly dress with a big slit up the side. Do you know what I mean? Like smoking a cigarette or something. Yeah,
she's
like
definitely smoking a cigarette, but I'm imagining this happening at like 3 a.m, and she's like pure. Should have went to bed hours ago. Go like, oh.
That's because that's the only time I would go to a casino, isn't it? Or you? Like we would never be going to actually bet. We'd just be going so we could drink a bit later.
Does it look like you, asshole? What the fuck do you think? Fuck you looking at? That'd be great. I bet there's hundreds of people in Glasgow in particular that will have had their parents meet with the first words, "Fuck are you looking at? You, how do you want to do something about it? Aye, I do. I'm on upstairs," and then
that's beautiful, beautiful
a
love story.
40-year marriage from there.
I think so many, like we had so many people tell us of like times that especially their parents had like got together and it hadn't really been the best scenario, or it was sounded a bit like it shouldn't have happened. And then it's that kind of thing. It was kind of like it's like an exception that it's like it didn't really start off on the best foot or the most romantic foot, but actually they've been together for a long time. And that's actually that's kind of similar to how my parents met. So my parents have been together for like 40 years. And basically what it was my mum wasn't from Glasgow, so she had moved to Glasgow. I think she'd already like gone to uni, and it was like she was living moved to like a student flat, and it was like a really disgusting, like really grotty flat. She'd moved in with like 5 guys who obviously just like didn't like clean it very well.
Were they in a hockey team as well?
No, they weren't in a hockey team. Okay. I thought you were going to make a joke about burger and pizza.
The burgers?
Yeah,
no.
little like.
Better than that.
Are you? But yeah. So she like moved into this flat, and basically like there was like 4 guys who were always there, and there was like the 5th guy who was my dad, who, because it was such a disgusting flat, he like basically just stayed at friends all the time and kind of like sofa surfed with other people. So my mum had been living there for like a long time, and but the whole time that she was there for like a couple of months, everyone was like, "Oh, you'll need to meet like my dad. You've not met him yet." And they kept saying it, and for months she never met him, right? And then one day she just like came down the stairs, and my dad was there in the kitchen in like Y fronts, holding up a piece of bread to the light, inspecting it for mold. And my mum was just like, "Oh, like, hello, like, you live here?" And he was like, "Oh, hi, yeah, blah, blah, blah."
Fucking your dad tried to discover penicillin and all that
shit. He's got a little pipette. I'm just imagining like a little mad scientist. But yeah, so she was just like, "Oh God, right, okay." And then I think that he liked her straight away, and my mum was like, I don't know if she was that into him or whatever, but basically he said to everyone in the flat, "Hey, like 2001: A Space Odyssey is on. It's like my favorite film. Does anyone want to come?" And like no one wanted to come, and my mum was like, "All right, well I'll come with you." So my mum and my dad.
That's a long fucking film to sit through in your first date, man. Jesus Christ.
I know. And so they went to see it, and then I think my dad went, oh, like, I've seen this before, like there's a scary bit about to happen, like, just to let you know. And then, like, he was like, you might want to hold my hand. So, like, they held hands, and then there was, like, no scary bit. My mum was like, that was obviously a move. And then
he's done that one before, but
it's like the equivalent of me taking people to this beautiful bit in Victoria Park.
Absolutely. Like father, like daughter.
So yeah, and then I think he, like, was like, oh, can I kiss you? And then they kissed or whatever. But it was funny because from then on, my dad, like, basically asked her to marry him every day for a year, for the first year that they went out, right? Wow. And my mum was like, shut up, like, no, I don't even know you, what are you on about? And every day he'd be like, oh, like, I love you, we should just get married. And I think it was jokey, but I think he was kind of saying it as well, like, kind of meaning it.
That's, again, sounds exactly the sort of thing you would do. Let's get married. Not really, but if you want, though, let's do it, please.
So then he asked for, like, a year, and apparently it was funny as well, like, he was always being like, oh, like, he was like really overexcited. He really, like, I think he kind of knew that he'd met the person, whereas my mum was totally like, my mum was 21 and she was just like, oh my god, he's mad, he's funny, and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And then after the year, when, because she was saying no, like, almost every day to, like, him being like, we should just get married, that he just stopped asking her, and they went out for, like, another, like, 10 years, and, like, he never asked her again. And it got to a point where she was a bit kind of like, I suppose, like, it would be quite nice if we got married. And I think they both were like, oh, like, do you think we should? And then it was just, like, the most unromantic proposal where they both just kind of were like, yeah, we probably should, like, it's the done thing, we should just kind of get married, because he'd tried too hard in the first year.
Well, if you get enough knockbacks, you're not going to fucking be that keen to
364.
Fool me once, shame on you.
But
it'd be funny after all that time, and then he's like, do you want to get married? And she's like, no.
But yeah, and then they did. But it was that kind of thing of being like, it wasn't the moment that you'd imagine of being like, you know, seeing them and being like, oh yeah, like, I've fallen in love with him. Like, he was proper in his boxers inspecting bread for mold, and yet, you know, it doesn't really matter how you meet. And I think that's the kind of thing, like, especially if you're a pure romantic, is like, you kind of tell yourself, oh, it would be so great if it was, like, a perfect story. And I just don't think it's that common, and, like, life isn't really like that, you know.
There you go. That is how you came to be.
I know.
Through that. Interesting. Weird. Yeah. It's weird when you think about it, because I think, like, when you think about your parents meeting and stuff, because you sort of, like, look at your parents when you're young as, like, these pure, you know, superhumans or whatever, and you always pure romanticize, like, you know, how they met and things like that. And then it's only as you get older and you sort of, like, start to see your parents as, like, real, just normal, flawed people, and you realise that, you know, and then even when you find out about your aunties and your uncles and all the family, and, like, you always think, like, everybody was, like, you know, they found the one and they got married and they had kids, and then you realise, oh no, they only get married because she got up the duff and all the rest of it. There's all these, like, stories of how it really transpired, and then you realise, oh fuck, they were only fucking, you know, in their early 20s, and
I know,
you know, they were dealing with all these things, and it's not like, you always imagine, like, they really got themselves sorted and settled and then they done it. But obviously it's not rarely the case, you know. I don't really know if I've got a meet cute per se, because, like, you know, like, I've not really been in that many relationships, and, like, I guess, like, one of my, like, girlfriends I'd met her, like, she was at, you know, I was doing a gig and she was there, and then, like, I got chatting to her and her pal after it, and then, you know, I got a number, and then we went out kind of thing. So I don't know if that's cute. Like, I think the closest I've had, I don't know if it counts if it's just, like, a kind of casual hookup thing, but one time I was gigging in Edinburgh, and it was at the break or something. It was, like, in summer, because people were all outside and all that stuff in the break, and I think I was about to leave or something, and then I went back to get, I maybe forgot something like that, but anyways, this girl just kind of standing about on her own, and, like, she just, like, everything, and I'd already been on stage and all that, and she just looked like she was quite, like, she was kind of open to want to talk, right? And I suppose if she's on her own, like, maybe Like, it turned out she was just there on her own, right? And she was from Hawaii, right? She lived in Hawaii, and she was just there for a couple of days, like just taking a wee tour of the UK and all that. So I just kind of got chatting to her and all that, and I was like, oh, cool, whatever. And she was in Edinburgh for a couple of days. I was back there the next night, so the next night we ended up just going out and stuff like that and hanging out. And then she was actually off to London a few days later, but so was I. I was gigging in London like a couple of days later. So we ended up hanging out that night in Edinburgh, like the night after we'd met. And then just by happenstance, we were both going to be in London. So we kind of hooked up in London and hung out and all that stuff. And it was just one of those like pure, it's such a coincidence that like, you know, that happened and we were both just going to be in these places at the same time. But it was dead nice and it felt like a pure wee like cool, you know, coincidence that sort of happened.
It's nice when you have a thing, like a nice thing with something, like a nice thing with someone, a nice thing with someone, and then you look back and you think that could so easily have not happened. And I think that's quite nice. You're like, oh, like, you know, I mean, if you believed in like fate and the universe, you'd be like, oh, that was meant to happen. It's quite nice. Like, I do think
it's a bit like, you're like, what are the odds that like I met this last in Edinburgh and then like we both ended up in London and she was just like there visiting and she actually had a kid and all that back in Hawaii and stuff like, and she'd split up with it. So I think she was kind of getting away from like she'd basically been raising this kid on her own for a couple of years and stuff like that, and was kind of getting away for a bit of an escape. So basically, she kind of found me for for that, I suppose. I know, God help her. But no, we had a very nice time, and I was like a cool wee one of those, like, as you say, it's kind of, it could have so easily not happened. So it was a nice couple of wee days, and hopefully made her trip. I don't know, but
just made her trip. Full stop.
Yeah, but I suppose you could say I'm still looking for my meet cute, so you know, you never know what could happen in the future.
Yeah, I do think it's like, it is nice. It's nice to kind of think, like, I don't really believe in fate, but I do think everything happens for a reason. And I do think, like, it's nice to think that, you know, you could just bump into someone and that could, like, turn into, you know, the love of your life or whatever. Sure. Like, it is nice. And I think sometimes you have moments where you think, oh God, like, I could have not done that. And then I wouldn't, you know, have what I have now, you know.
Exactly.
I could have not started this podcast with you and not met someone. It's a pretty good CV.
Our lives are shaped by the decisions we make.
A quote by Marilyn Monroe.
Is it?
No, but you know how everyone is like, writes some shit quote and it's like Marilyn Monroe, and it's like Marilyn Monroe did not say that.
When God closes a door, he opens a window. Marilyn Monroe.
Do you know who did say that?
Who?
The nun in Sound of Music.
Did she? But was that an original, or did they just give her that?
Oh, like from the Bible.
If I, in the Sound of Music, I would fucking shut the door and the window so I didn't need to hear them fucking singing all the time.
Have you seen that?
That's enough, for fuck's sake. Tell your kids to shut the fuck up.
Have you seen the bit? There's a bit.
Von Trapps would have been the worst neighbours of all time.
There's a bit where the like head mum, what are they called? The head mum nun. Mother?
I've not really seen it.
Oh, there's
I know
a bit,
it's something to do with Nazis as well, so I'm sorry for that.
It's like my favourite. It's like my favourite, like, nostalgic film. But there's a bit where like the head nun.
Those were the good old days, the 1930s in fucking Germany.
Great songs though, very catchy.
Sure.
But it's like Mother Abbess, and she goes, Maria, what is it you can't face? But it's just like, sounds really like, what is it you can't face? It's like, Maria, what is it you can't face? So funny.
Which is definitely another phrase that people will have said as a meet cute in Glasgow. What is it, cunt face?
All the little rats are scuttling at our feet.
Yeah. So I think that about covers it for this week's episode on Meet Cutes. Once again, just like to remind you, if you are enjoying the podcast, please do remember to give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, and you can subscribe to us on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts.
And if you'd like to slide into our DMs, you can send us a message to our Instagram at Debating Dating. Any topics you want us to chat about, if you want to send us a little voice note of any crazy dating stories that you've
had. Or if you want to reprimand Rachel for abandoning you and getting in a relationship. Or if you want to send your heartfelt congratulations
Yes,
that
please.
she has finally
I've
overcome
put in my time.
her long-term singledom.
Yeah, and yeah, and you can send us a little email to debatingdatingpod@gmail.com for all of your congratulations, flowers. We still like
And
you,
recommendations
Rachel.
for our new podcast host for the
No,
next series.
I'm here to stay. I'm John Lennon.
Yeah. So we, John Lennon, unfortunately no longer with us.
Oh yeah, shit.
We remind us this is our penultimate episode of this series.
Yes.
Next week's episode will be the last of the series, episode 20. We've made it this far. We've been going since February, and if you have been with us all the way, we do thank you very much. We hope you enjoy it, and we hope you don't miss us too much during the summer, but we will be back in the fall, and perhaps depending on how things go with COVID, it might even try and do a wee live show or something like that in the summer or after, whenever that's possible.
Let us know if you would like to attend a live show, and then we can know numbers, and then we can make it happen. And we would absolutely love to do that. So yeah, let us know if you're keen for a live show.
That's it. Let us know if we need to book the King's Theatre. Or whether we need to book the King's Theatre, but we need everybody spaced out to the point where there's only 20 people there. But no, we do hope you've enjoyed today's episode, and please enjoy next week's, which will be the last of the series. But thank you so much for those who've been with us all the way, or those that are just joining us, and we hope to continue on with you in the future. I don't know what the fuck I'm saying at this point.
If this is someone's first episode, you'll have 20 episodes to get back onto, to binge.
Yeah. But thanks very much for listening to today's episode, and we will speak to you soon.
Bye.